The first time I saw my daughter's name, it was on a hospital form I was never supposed to read. Not a birth certificate. Not a photograph. Not a Christmas card with a child's handwriting. A hospital emergency contact form. It was buried in a manila folder that smelled like dust and copier toner, under 29 years of workplace injury reports, annual evaluations, flu shot records, and payroll updates. I was sitting in human resources with rust under my fingernails from a broken pipe in the basement, waiting for a man named Tom Calder to explain how long my shoulder would keep me off night maintenance. He had been making small talk until he reached that page. Then he stopped. The room had the kind of quiet you only notice in hospitals during the day, when the hallway outside is full of people pretending not to be scared. Phones rang 2 offices away. A printer warmed up somewhere behind us. Through the window in the HR door, I could see a nurse carrying a stack of blue folders against her chest. Tom looked from the paper to me. Then back to the paper. "Ray," he said carefully, "do you have a daughter?" I almost laughed, because it was such a strange question to ask a man everybody at Millbrook County Hospital knew was alone. "No," I said. Tom did not look relieved. He turned the paper around. The form was old, scanned crooked, the ink faded at the edges. My name was at the top. Raymond Arthur Mercer. Employee ID 04418. Maintenance Department. Date of update, October 12, 1999. Halfway down the page, in a box labeled Emergency Contact, someone had written, "Lila Mercer, daughter." Below that was a phone number with a Michigan area code. I stared at the word until it stopped looking like English. Daughter. Tom cleared his throat. Could this have been a stepdaughter? Or maybe somebody you listed temporarily? My daughter died before she ever had a name, I said. I had said that sentence only a few times in my life, and never at work. It came out flat, not because it did not hurt, but because I had carried it for so long that it had become a piece of furniture inside me. Heavy. Ugly. Always there. Tom lowered his eyes. I reached for the paper, but he kept one hand on it. "I probably shouldn't have let you see this," he said. "This is from your archived personnel file. We're digitizing old records before your workers' comp review." "Then why did you ask me?" "Because there's another form from 2001. He pulled a second sheet from the folder. This one looked cleaner. Same employee ID. Same department. Same box. Emergency contact, Denise Mercer, sister. The signature at the bottom said Raymond A. Mercer. I looked at it, and something in my chest tightened before my mind caught up. "That's not my signature," I said. Tom looked down at it. "It matches the name." "It doesn't match me." He waited. I pointed with one stiff finger. "I always drag the R in Raymond. My father did it that way. I used to copy him when I was a kid. On that form, the R stood short and neat. Like somebody had practiced my name but not my hand." Tom slid both forms back toward himself, not unkindly, but like they had become evidence in a room that was not built for evidence. "I'm not accusing anyone of anything," he said. "It could be a clerical error. It could be an old update mistake. Does a clerical error write daughter?" He did not answer. Outside the HR office, somebody laughed near the vending machines. A normal laugh. A life that had not just been interrupted by one line of ink. Tom leaned forward. "Ray, do you want me to keep digging?" I should have said no. A reasonable man would have taken the workers' comp packet, gone home, iced his shoulder, and let the past keep its lid on. I was 58 years old. My life was not big, but it was arranged. I worked nights. I fixed what broke. I paid bills. I drove to my mother's house every other day to check the furnace, the gutters, the back steps, the pill organizer on the kitchen counter. I avoided questions about family by staying useful. But the paper was still facing me. Lila Mercer, daughter. A dead baby does not fill out emergency contact forms. A dead baby does not get a Michigan phone number. A dead baby does not appear in your work file 8 years after she was buried in a story you never dared question. I stood up too quickly, and pain shot through my shoulder. Tom reached out. Ray? I need a copy. I can't just. I'm not asking you for the whole file. My voice sounded rougher than I meant it to. Just that page. He looked toward the door, then back at me. Tom Calder was not a dramatic man. He had a soft belly, reading glasses on a chain, and the cautious manners of someone who spent his life explaining benefits to people at their worst. I had fixed the heater in his office twice. Once on Christmas Eve, when he had come in to process a hospice nurse's emergency leave request and found his room colder than the parking lot. He remembered that. I saw it in his face. He made a copy. When he handed it to me, he said, "Don't confront anyone until you know what you're looking at." I folded the paper once and slid it into the inside pocket of my work jacket. Then I went downstairs, back through the service corridor, past the laundry carts and oxygen tank storage, past the break room where somebody had left half a donut on a napkin. The hospital kept breathing around me. Boilers humming. Elevator motors grinding. Pipes ticking inside walls. For 29 years, those sounds had been my world. That day, every sound seemed to be asking the same question. Who was Lila Mercer? And why had my sister's name been written over hers? I drove to my mother's house after work because that was what I did on Thursdays. The house sat on County Road 14, 2 miles outside Millbrook, with white vinyl siding that had gone gray where the rain hit hardest and a front porch my father built before he died. I had replaced the roof after the big hailstorm, rewired the kitchen, put grab bars in the bathroom, fixed the back steps 3 times, and paid the property taxes twice when Denise said she was between checks. It had never been my house, not legally. But it had owned most of my life. Denise was in the kitchen when I came in, separating pills into a plastic organizer with the focused irritation of someone doing a job no one else appreciated enough. My mother sat at the table in her blue robe, staring at a mug of tea she had not touched. "Your shoulder looks worse," Denise said without looking up. "It's fine." "It's not fine. You're holding it like you did after the boiler accident." I said it's fine. My mother blinked slowly. "Raymond? Hi, Mom." She smiled the soft, uncertain smile she had developed in the last few years, when names still came to her but time did not always arrive in order. "Did you fix the porch light?" "Not yet. It flickers. I'll look at it before I leave." Denise snapped the pill organizer shut. "Don't climb a ladder with that shoulder. I already told you." I took the folded paper from my jacket and placed it on the kitchen table. Denise glanced at it the way people glance at mail they know is not theirs. Then she saw the name. Her hand moved wrong. "Not much. Just enough." She reached for the pill organizer, missed the latch, and knocked Tuesday evening's pills onto the table. Tiny white tablets scattered across the wood. My mother made a small sound. Denise began picking them up. "What is that?" "You tell me." She did not touch the paper. That was the first thing I noticed. Denise had always been a toucher. Bills, menus, church bulletins, thermostat dials, my jacket if she wanted my attention. She touched things like touching made her in charge of them. But she did not touch the copy. "It looks like some old hospital form," she said. I didn't say it came from the hospital. Her eyes lifted. For 1 second, she looked like the older sister I remembered from childhood, the one who stole quarters from my dresser and lied before I asked. Then the expression closed. "Well, where else would a form come from? You work at the hospital." I sat across from her. "Who is Lila Mercer?" My mother looked up from her tea. The room shifted. Not visibly. The yellow curtains did not move. The refrigerator kept clicking in its old, uneven rhythm. A pickup truck passed outside on the county road. But Denise's face changed in a way I had seen only twice before, once when the bank called about the missed mortgage payment she had sworn was handled, and once when I found my father's socket wrench set in a pawnshop case. She knew the name. "I have no idea," she said. "That's funny. You looked like you did." "I looked surprised because you came in here waving some paper around like a detective." "I asked you a question. And I answered it." My mother whispered, "Lila." Denise turned too fast. "Mom." My mother's eyes moved from the paper to me. She seemed confused, frightened, almost awake. "Mom," I said, softer, "do you know that name?" Denise stood. "She doesn't know what day it is half the time. She said the name. She repeats things. You know that." "Mom." My mother touched the mug with both hands. "Pretty name." Denise exhaled sharply. "Ray, don't do this." "Do what?" "Take one bad scan from some file clerk and turn it into a family emergency." The phrase landed with a strange weight. One bad scan. Tom had said clerical error. Denise said bad scan. Different words. Same direction. Push the paper back into the drawer. Make it small. Make it technical. Make it nothing. I looked at the page again. The handwriting beside Lila's name had a slight backward slant. Not mine. Not Tom's. Not modern. Old ink, old pressure, old decision. Did I have a daughter? I asked. Denise laughed once. No humor in it. You know what happened. I know what I was told. Her face tightened. The pills were still scattered between us. You were 22, she said. You were a wreck. Maggie was a wreck. The baby didn't make it. That's what happened. Who told me? She stared at me. I had never asked that before. Not in 36 years. Grief can make a person obedient. Shame can, too. I had been young, poor, and scared when Maggie Grant got pregnant. Her mother hated me because I drove delivery routes and lived in my mother's basement. My mother hated the idea of losing me to a girl from the other side of the river. Denise said everybody was being practical. Somebody had to be. Then Maggie went into labor early while I was out on a 3-day route covering for a sick driver. When I came home, Denise was waiting on the porch. She told me the baby had been born too small. She told me Maggie's mother had already made arrangements. She told me there was nothing for me to do. There's nothing for you to do now, Ray. Don't make this harder on everybody. I remembered the exact words because I had built a life around them. Denise folded her arms. You're not seriously going to start questioning a tragedy from 1987 because somebody typed a wrong name. It wasn't typed. What? It was handwritten. She said nothing. I asked again. Who told me my daughter died? Denise's mouth opened. My mother began to cry. Not loudly. Just one thin sound, like a kettle starting to steam. Denise turned to her immediately. Mom, it's okay. He's just upset. Raymond, my mother said. I stood up because if I stayed at that table another second, I would either shout or shake. Denise followed me into the hallway. Where are you going? To fix the porch light. With your shoulder? I need a screwdriver. She lowered her voice. You need to leave this alone. I turned. Her expression was not angry now. It was afraid. That scared me more. Why? I asked. Because some doors don't open onto anything good. I looked past her into the kitchen, where my mother sat crying over a mug of cold tea and a name she should not have recognized. Maybe not, I said. But somebody already opened this one. I fixed the porch light in the dark. The fixture was old, the screws stripped, the wiring brittle. It would have been easier to replace the whole thing, but I did what I always did in that house. I made the failing thing last a little longer. My shoulder burned every time I lifted my arm. Denise watched from inside the screen door, arms folded, not speaking. When the bulb finally stopped flickering, I climbed down and gathered my tools. The light over the porch came on steady behind me. For the first time in my life, I did not feel proud of fixing something there. I felt used. 2 nights later, I found the birthday cards. I did not mean to look. That is what I told myself at first. My mother's bedroom vent had been rattling for weeks, and Denise kept saying the sound made Mom nervous at night. I went over after my hospital shift with a flashlight, a cordless drill, and a roll of foil tape. Denise was at choir practice. Mom was asleep in the recliner with a blanket tucked around her knees, the television playing a rerun with the volume low. The vent was under the window, half hidden behind an old cedar chest. I pulled the chest out and found mouse droppings, a cracked photograph frame, and a shoebox wedged between the baseboard and the wall. It was a brown men's dress shoebox, the kind I used to get from Sears when Sears still existed. The lid had softened with age. I should have put it back. Instead, I opened it. On top was a stack of envelopes tied with a faded blue ribbon. The first one said, "For Lila, 5th birthday." The handwriting was mine. I sat down on the floor. The room smelled like dust, lavender lotion, and the menthol rub my mother put under her nose at night. The flashlight rolled against my boot and threw a pale circle across the carpet. I opened the envelope. There was a card inside with a cartoon bear holding balloons. The ink had faded, but the words were mine. "I don't know if anybody will ever give this to you. I don't know if I'm allowed to write it. I don't know if I'm making things worse. But if you were here, I would tell you happy birthday." I had written that. I had no memory of writing it. Or maybe that was not true. Memory is not a locked box. It is a room you stop entering. The shape of it remains even when the light is off. I remembered buying a birthday card once at the drugstore on Main Street. I remembered standing in the aisle too long, looking at cards for little girls. I remembered the cashier asking if I needed help and me walking out with nothing. Or so I thought. There were more. "For Lila, 10th birthday. For Lila, sweet 16. For Lila, if you ever find me." That last one made my hand go numb. I opened it. The card was blank inside except for 3 lines. "My name is Ray Mercer. If you are real, I am sorry. If you are gone, I am still sorry." I read it again and again. If you are real. At the bottom of the shoebox were letters not written by me. Yellowed envelopes. Some torn open. Some still sealed. All addressed to Raymond Mercer. County Road 14. Millbrook, OH. The return name was Lila Grant. The postmarks began in 2005. The earliest one had been sent from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Across the front, in black postal ink, was a stamp. Return to sender. Another envelope had a handwritten note. Refused. I stared at that word. Returned meant mistakes. Moved away. Wrong address. Mail lost in the machinery of everybody's life. Refused meant a hand. A person. A choice. Behind me, my mother said, "I told her not to keep them there." I turned so fast pain shot through my shoulder. She was standing in the doorway, one hand on the frame, her white hair flattened on one side from the recliner cushion. "Mom!" Her eyes were clearer than I had seen them in months. "I told Denise," she said, "paper doesn't stay buried." I rose slowly, the shoebox in my hands. "What are these?" She looked at the box, then at me. Her mouth trembled. Your sister thought it was Kinder. Kinder? She said you had finally stopped crying at night. The floor seemed to move under me. I cried at night? You were young. I don't remember. You worked too much. You came home smelling like diesel and rain. Sometimes you sat in the basement with the light off. I looked down at the birthday cards. Did I know? My mother pressed her lips together. Mom! She whispered, not all of it. What does that mean? A car door closed outside. Denise was home. My mother's face changed immediately. The clarity retreated like something pulled backward behind a curtain. Don't tell her I said anything, she whispered. The front door opened. Denise called, Mom? Ray? I stood in the bedroom holding the shoebox when she appeared in the hallway. She saw it. Her choir folder slipped from under her arm and hit the floor. Neither of us moved. The old house creaked around us. Denise looked at my mother first, not me. You went through her room? I fixed the vent. By digging through boxes? I held up one envelope. Who refused this? Her eyes flickered to the word. Refused. Then she did what Denise always did when cornered. She became practical. Ray, put that down. You don't know what you're holding. That's why I'm asking. You're holding old pain. No. I'm holding mail. Mail from a girl who was confused and angry because her mother filled her head with stories. What stories? Denise stepped into the room and lowered her voice. She wanted money. That was the first time Denise gave Lila a motive. Not a name. Not a face. A motive. She was 18, Denise said. Maybe 19. She started writing after Maggie got sick. Maggie probably told her things. People do that when they're dying. They rewrite history so they don't have to carry guilt alone. Maggie died? Denise closed her eyes briefly, like she had said too much. When? Years ago. You knew Maggie died. I heard. How? Small towns have long arms. Maggie moved to Michigan. People still talk. I looked at my mother. She would not meet my eyes. I pulled another envelope from the box. This was sent in 2016. Denise's jaw tightened. This one in 2020. Ray. She kept writing. She kept disturbing a life you had already made peace with. The sentence landed so cleanly I almost missed the cruelty inside it. A life you had made peace with. That was what Denise called the life she helped build for me. Nights in a hospital basement. Holidays fixing Mom's sump pump. Birthdays working overtime so Denise could keep the house insured. Sitting alone in my truck outside diners because going in by myself made the waitresses talk too softly. Peace. I laughed once, and the sound did not belong to me. Denise flinched. You refused them, I said. I protected you. From my daughter? From a stranger. She wrote my name. Anyone can write a name. Then why hide the letters? She looked at my mother again. That was when I understood there were at least two guilty people in the room, but only one strong enough to keep lying. Denise said, because you would have done exactly what you're doing now. You would have torn yourself open over something you couldn't fix. I put the envelopes back in the shoebox one by one. Where is she? I don't know. Denise. I said I don't know. You knew enough to refuse her letters. Her face hardened. And if I did? What would you have done at 22? Or 30? Or 40? Run off and become some perfect father? You couldn't even keep a steady apartment until the hospital hired you full-time. I kept this house standing. This house didn't ask you to be sentimental. I stepped toward her. She stepped back, but only half a step. What happened to my child? Denise's eyes shone, but not with tears. With anger. With fear. With something older than both. You didn't have a child, she said. Maggie had a child. Her family took her. That's what families do when boys don't step up fast enough. I was on a route. You told me she died. I told you what you needed to survive. No. You told me what you needed me to believe. My mother made a soft moaning sound. Denise turned on her. This is why I said we should have cleared this room years ago. My mother whispered, I'm sorry. I did not know if she was speaking to Denise or me. I carried the shoebox out of the room. Denise followed me all the way to the front door. If you go digging, she said, don't expect this family to be waiting when you're done. I paused with my hand on the knob. For most of my life, that sentence would have stopped me. Family, in our house, had always meant work. Duty. Showing up before being asked. Not embarrassing anyone. Not making the sick person cry. Not leaving the person who had sacrificed more. Denise had built a fence out of those words and called it home. I opened the door. Behind me, she said, quieter, you'll hurt Mom. I looked back. My mother sat in the hallway chair, small and folded, watching me with wet eyes. For one terrible second, I almost put the shoebox back. Then I saw the word on the top envelope. Refused. I walked out. The Millbrook post office opened at 8:30, but I was there at 8:10, sitting in my truck with the heater blowing cold air because I had not gotten around to replacing the blower motor in my own vehicle. That was the kind of man I had become. I fixed everyone else's heat first. The shoebox sat on the passenger seat. I had not slept. When the doors opened, I carried the letters inside like something fragile and shameful. The clerk behind the counter was a woman named Nadine who had worked there since I was in high school. She remembered everybody's business and pretended not to unless she liked you. I had repaired her mailbox after a snowplow took it out in 2011, so she liked me enough. Morning, Ray, she said. You look like you lost an argument with a staircase. Can you look at old mail records? Her smile faded a little. How old? 15, 20 years. Depends what you need. I placed the first envelope on the counter. She put on glasses. Then she read the name. Lila Grant. Her face did not change much, but her hands became careful. That's old. I need to know why these were returned. Nadine picked up the envelope stamped refused. Who refused it? That's what I'm asking. She looked past me at the empty lobby. Ray, old domestic mail records aren't like bank statements. We don't just pull up 20-year histories because somebody asks. I'm not asking for gossip. I know. I think someone redirected my mail. She took off her glasses. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. A rack of greeting cards stood beside us, full of bright envelopes for birthdays, sympathy, weddings, babies. Babies. Nadine leaned forward. Do you have anything with a barcode? I took out the 2016 envelope. She studied it. This one might have electronic forwarding history. No promises. She disappeared into the back. I waited. A man came in to buy stamps. A woman mailed a package to Arizona. Someone laughed at the passport photo machine because their toddler would not sit still. Normal lives. Normal errands. Normal proof that people stayed connected through addresses and names and envelopes that reached the right hands. Nadine returned 20 minutes later with a printed page. I can't give you everything, she said. But I can tell you this. There was a forwarding order connected to your name in 2008. I never filed one. I figured. To where? She hesitated. Nadine. She lowered her voice. A Hickory Street apartment. Denise had lived on Hickory Street after her first divorce. I already knew it before Nadine said the unit number. The air left my lungs. How long? 6 months. I lived at County Road 14 then. I know. Who filed it? She looked down. Please. This printout only shows initials on the old system. DM. DM. Denise Mercer. I folded the paper slowly. So mail to me went to her. For that period, yes. And after that? Could have expired. Could have been changed. Could have been refused manually. Depends on carrier instructions. Carrier instructions? If someone at the residence says a person doesn't live there, mail can be marked. If someone refuses a letter, it gets stamped. My sister had not just hidden a shoebox. She had moved the road. I thanked Nadine and started to leave. Ray, she said. I turned. She looked like she wanted to say more. Instead, she pulled open a drawer and took out a small slip of paper. This isn't official, she said. But if you're trying to find someone, start with the return address that repeats the longest. People move. Habits don't. I looked at the letters that had come from Grand Rapids, then later from a smaller town outside Kalamazoo. She kept writing from Michigan, Nadine said. That means either she wanted to be found, or she wanted proof she tried. That sentence stayed with me all the way back to the hospital. Proof she tried. By noon, Denise had already started telling people I was not well. I learned that from Sister Carolyn, who was not a nun but had been called Sister Carolyn at First Methodist since before I was born because she ran the church basement like a small country. I stopped by the church to check a leak under the kitchen sink. I had promised to do it before the shoulder injury, and even after everything, some part of me still moved toward obligation automatically. Sister Carolyn found me on my knees under the sink with a flashlight in my teeth. Raymond, she said, your sister says you're having a hard week. I froze. Water dripped into the bucket beside my knee. I removed the flashlight from my mouth. Did she? She's worried about you. That's one way to put it. She said you found some old papers and got yourself upset. I tightened the pipe fitting too hard and felt my shoulder flare. What else did she say? Sister Carol and shifted her weight. She was 70 if she was a day, with silver hair pinned tight and eyes that had seen every casserole-based lie in 3 counties. She said lonely people can make stories out of paper. There it was. Neat. Sad. Reasonable. Not Ray is crazy. Not Ray is lying. Lonely people. Stories. Paper. It was the kind of sentence that made the speaker sound compassionate and the target sound unstable. I crawled out from under the sink. Sister Carol and watched me wipe my hands. Do you believe her? I asked. I believe your sister is afraid of something. I looked at her. She glanced toward the hallway, then lowered her voice. Denise has spent years making herself the front desk of that family. Everybody goes through her. Doctors. Neighbors. Church ladies. You. I had no answer. She took a towel from the counter and handed it to me. Paper has a bad reputation, she said. People say it doesn't matter. But I've seen paper outlive every lie in a room. I almost smiled. Almost. Did you know Maggie Grant? I asked. Sister Carolyn's face softened. Everybody knew Maggie. She sang like a radio in church when she was little. Then her mother got proud and hard, and Maggie got quiet. She had a daughter. I heard she did. Did you hear the baby died? She studied me for a long moment. No, she said. I heard Maggie's mother took her north. The church basement hummed around us. An old refrigerator kicked on. Someone upstairs dragged a chair across the fellowship hall floor. I leaned against the counter. All those years, the truth had not been locked in a vault. It had been scattered around town in small pieces people assumed I already knew or did not want to hurt me by saying. Maybe that was the cruelest part. A secret is not always kept by one person. Sometimes it survives because everyone holds a corner and calls it mercy. I went back to the hospital after lunch because my life still required forms. Tom Calder called me into HR and shut the door. I found something, he said. He looked worse than I did. His tie was loosened. His desk was covered with old personnel folders and a cup of coffee gone untouched. He handed me a timeline. I shouldn't be doing this without a formal records request. Then why are you? Because the 2001 form is strange. I sat. Tom placed the 1999 form beside the 2001 form again. In 1999, your emergency contact is Lila Mercer, daughter. In 2001, it changes to Denise Mercer, sister. That could happen. People update contacts. I didn't. I know you said that. He tapped the second page. The problem is, we don't have the usual attached update request. Back then, employees filled out a small yellow change card before HR typed the permanent form. The yellow card is missing. Could have been lost. Could have been. But the scan log shows the update was processed on a Saturday. So, HR wasn't open on Saturdays in 2001. I looked at him. The only people with access to personnel files on weekends were department supervisors and maintenance staff. I was maintenance. You were on vacation that week. No, I wasn't. He handed me a copy of a time-off request. Again, the signature said Raymond A. Mercer. Again, the R was wrong. I never took vacation, I said. I know. Your payroll shows you worked that whole week. The room narrowed around the papers. Somebody had not only changed my emergency contact. They had created a false time-off record to explain why I was supposedly present to authorize it. Who processed it? I asked. Tom hesitated. Tom. It was entered under a temporary admin login. Back then departments could borrow clerical help. The typed initials are DM. DM. The same initials from the post office forwarding order. Denise had worked temp clerical at the hospital for 3 months in 2001. I remembered now. She hated it. Said the women in the office acted like they were better than her. Said she quit because people were too political. I never knew she had been near my file. Tom rubbed his forehead. Ray, this is beyond a mistake. I picked up the 2001 form. Denise Mercer, sister. A signature that was almost mine. A missing yellow card. A fake vacation request. A Saturday login. It was not one bad scan. It was architecture. You need to file a complaint, Tom said. With who? HR, compliance. Maybe legal. The word legal made me tired before it made me angry. I did not want a case. I wanted my life back. Or at least the parts of it somebody had stored in boxes and returned envelopes. I need the original file, I said. Tom shook his head. The original paper archives before 2005 were moved to basement storage, then partially digitized. Some boxes were water damaged in 2014. I fixed that flood. I know. The irony was so ugly I almost laughed. I had spent a night knee-deep in cold water saving old hospital records, never knowing my own life was dissolving in one of those boxes. Tom leaned back. There may be one person who remembers the old HR process. Who? Evelyn Price. The nurse? Retired now. She volunteers Thursdays. She was charge nurse in maternity before they closed the old wing. But before that, she helped HR with employee medical files when the hospital was short-staffed. She knew everything. I know Evelyn. Everyone knew Evelyn Price. She had worked at Millbrook County Hospital so long people joked the building had been constructed around her. She was small, sharp-eyed, and impossible to impress. I had replaced a ceiling tile above her nurse's station once, and she told me I was using the wrong ladder before I climbed the first rung. She's coming in tomorrow, Tom said. I folded the copies. Ray, he said, whatever this is, don't do it alone. I thought of my life. My apartment over the closed hardware store. My refrigerator with 2 eggs and a jar of pickles. The church basement sink. My mother's porch light. Denise's hands on every doorway. I've been doing it alone longer than I knew, I said. That night, Denise came to my apartment. She had not been there in over a year. She hated the stairs and said the place smelled like old wood and bachelor habits. She was not wrong. The apartment had been built above Mercer Hardware back when Main Street still had 3 shoe stores and no vape shop. The floors tilted. The radiator clanked. My kitchen window looked onto the alley behind the diner. I chose it because the rent was cheap and because nobody from my family had a key. Or so I thought. She knocked 3 times, then entered before I answered. I was sitting at the kitchen table with the shoebox open. She saw the envelopes spread out by postmark year. You're making a shrine, she said. I'm making a timeline. That's worse. I did not invite her to sit. She sat anyway. For a moment, in the weak yellow kitchen light, I saw how old my sister had become. Denise had always looked older than me, even when we were children. Responsibility did that, she said. But now there were deep lines around her mouth, and her hands shook slightly when she placed her purse on the table. She looked at the letters. I should have burned them, she said. That was the first honest thing she had said. Why didn't you? Because Mom wouldn't let me. Mom knew. She closed her eyes. How much? Enough to suffer. Not enough to act. I let that sit between us. Denise opened her purse and took out a folded tissue, but she did not cry. She pressed it between her fingers like she needed something to destroy quietly. You think I'm a monster. I think you stole mail from a child trying to find her father. She wasn't a child by then. She was 18. Old enough to make trouble. I stared at her. She leaned forward. You don't know what it was like after Maggie left. You think you were the only one wrecked? Mom stopped eating. You stopped working regular hours. You came home drunk twice. Twice. Once is enough when your mother is already losing her mind. She wasn't losing her mind in 1987. She was losing control. There's a difference. There it was. The word under all the others. Control. Denise looked around my apartment with naked contempt. This is what you built even with us helping you. You think you could have raised a baby? I wasn't given the chance. Because there was no chance. Maggie's mother would have eaten you alive. Maggie was weak. You were broke. Mom needed you. Mom needed me to believe my daughter was dead? She needed you home. The words hung there. Denise heard herself. I saw it. For 1 second, shame crossed her face. Then she buried it. You always make things sentimental, she said. You think being a father is a feeling. It's not. It's money, time, stability, showing up. You didn't have those things. I showed up for everyone else. Because you had to. No. Because you made sure I thought there was nowhere else to show up. She stood. The chair scraped the floor. Fine. Find her. Go ahead. Find this woman who has lived 36 years without you and ask her to clap because you finally opened your mail. I said nothing. She will hate you, Denise said. I looked at the letters. Maybe. She'll ask where you were. I'll answer. What answer do you have? The truth. Denise laughed under her breath. The truth doesn't make you innocent. It just spreads the blame around. She picked up her purse. At the door, she turned. Mom has a cardiology appointment Monday. I assume you'll still drive her, unless your new paper family is more important than the woman who raised you. For most of my life, that would have worked. Not because it was fair. Because it was familiar. I looked at my sister and finally saw the machinery. Guilt was not something she threw in anger. It was the family language. She had taught me to hear it as love. I'll take her, I said. Denise's shoulders eased. But after that, we're changing how things work. Her eyes narrowed. Meaning? Meaning I'm done being the only man available for emergencies you create. The old Denise would have snapped back. This Denise went quiet. That scared her more than my anger. The next morning, Evelyn Price found me before I found her. I was in the old maternity corridor, where the hospital had converted delivery rooms into outpatient offices after the new wing opened. The walls still had faint pastel borders under layers of beige paint. If you knew where to look, you could see where rocking chairs had worn half-moons into the linoleum. Evelyn came around the corner carrying a volunteer badge and a paper cup of tea. She stopped when she saw me. Ray Mercer, she said. You look like a man standing in the wrong decade. I tried to smile. Morning, Evelyn. She looked at the folder in my hand. Then at my face. What are you looking for? I had planned to be careful. To ask small questions. To pretend I was not desperate. Instead, I said, did Maggie Grant's baby die? Evelyn did not ask which Maggie. She did not ask why. She glanced toward the nurse's station, then nodded toward a small consultation room. Close the door, she said. Inside, the room had 2 chairs, a sink, a box of tissues, and a framed print of a lake no one had ever visited. Evelyn sat first. I remained standing until she pointed at the chair like I was still a maintenance man using the wrong ladder. Sit down before you fall down. I sat. She wrapped both hands around her tea. Maggie's baby did not die in this hospital, she said. The words were gentle. They still cut. I breathed in once, then again. What happened? Maggie delivered early. Not dangerously early, but enough that we kept the baby under observation. A girl. Small. Loud lungs. Dark hair. My hands closed around my knees. Did Maggie name her? Lila Rose. The room blurred. Lila Rose. Not just Lila on a form. A whole name. Maggie wanted you called, Evelyn said. I was out of town. We knew. She said you were on a delivery route and would come back Friday. Her mother was furious. Your mother came in once. Your sister came twice. Denise. Evelyn's mouth tightened. Yes. What did she do? At first? Nothing unusual. Asked questions. Acted like the adult in the room. Your mother cried and sat in a chair. Denise handled paperwork. I thought of the 2001 form. The Saturday login. Denise handling paperwork before I even knew paperwork mattered. Maggie's mother took Lila home when she was discharged, Evelyn said. That was allowed. Maggie was young, overwhelmed, and her mother controlled the house. But Maggie left something for you. A letter. Evelyn looked up sharply. I found envelopes, I said. Denise kept them. Evelyn closed her eyes. I wondered. You wondered for 36 years? Her face hardened. Careful. I stopped. She set her tea down. I was a nurse, Ray. Not family. Not police. In 1987, an unmarried young woman's mother could make a lot of noise and still sound respectable. Your sister came to the desk and said she was picking up a note Maggie left for the family. She knew your full name. She knew Maggie's room. She had your mother with her. I had no reason to refuse. What did the letter say? I didn't read it. I nodded, though disappointment moved through me like cold water. But I remember the envelope, Evelyn said. Maggie wrote your name in blue ink. She had a little flower over the I in your middle name. My middle name is Arthur. I know. It looked ridiculous. For some reason, that nearly broke me. A flower over the I in Arthur. A tiny, human thing. Not evidence. Not a twist. A young woman in a hospital bed, exhausted and scared, trying to make a letter less ugly. What happened after? I asked. Maggie left town within a month. Her mother said she had family in Michigan. Your sister told people the baby died. I swallowed. People knew that wasn't true. Some did. And nobody told me. Evelyn's eyes did not soften. People assumed you knew more than you said. Or less than you could handle. That's how secrets survive in small towns. Everybody thinks their silence is the kindest peace. I looked down at my hands. They were scarred, dry, grease still under one thumbnail. Hands that had fixed incubator alarms, delivery room sinks, maternity ward thermostats. Hands that had worked in the same building where my daughter had once cried. Was she healthy? I asked. Evelyn smiled then, just a little. She screamed every time we changed her blanket. Hated being cold. Maggie said she got that from you. I laughed, but it came out like pain. Evelyn reached into her volunteer tote and pulled out a small spiral notebook. I can't access patient records for you, she said. And even if they exist, they're protected. But I kept personal notes back then. Not medical details. Names. Birthdays. Things to remember when families came back with thank you cards. She flipped through pages slowly. Her fingers stopped. Lila Rose Grant. Born August 14, 1987. 6 pounds, 2 ounces. Discharged August 18. August 14. I had spent every August for 36 years feeling uneasy and calling it weather. Evelyn tore a blank piece from the back of the notebook and wrote the date down. Then she added something else. Maggie had a cousin in Portage, Michigan, she said. If Lila stayed in that area, school records might point you somewhere. Public records too. But don't show up on that woman's doorstep like a ghost demanding a hug. I wouldn't. Yes, you would if grief drove the truck. She handed me the paper. Write first. Give her the choice everybody stole from both of you. I folded the note carefully. At the door, she said, Ray. I turned. Your sister did a terrible thing. But when you find Lila, don't make Denise the first thing you hand her. I did not understand. Evelyn's eyes held mine. That girl already lost a father to other people's decisions. Don't make your first gift another burden. I carried that sentence with me for days. Finding Lila was both easier and harder than I expected. The internet makes a person visible in fragments. A school staff page. A local newspaper photo from a holiday concert. A PDF board agenda listing music program coordinators. A 2018 fundraiser where a woman named Lila Grant stood beside a group of children holding paper snowflakes. She was 36. She had dark hair like Maggie in the one prom photo I still owned. But the shape of her face was mine. Not exactly. Life had softened and changed it, made it hers. Still, I saw my father's chin in her. The Mercer chin, my mother used to call it when she was proud of us. I printed the staff page at the library because my home printer had been out of ink since Easter. For 20 minutes, I sat at a public computer staring at the tiny photo. Lila Grant, music teacher. Not Lila Mercer. Not daughter. Not mine. A woman with her own life, her own name, her own years of deciding what my absence meant. There was an email address on the school website. I wrote 6 drafts and deleted all of them. The first sounded like an apology from a coward. The second sounded like a legal notice. The third used the word daughter, and I erased it so hard the cursor jumped. Finally, I wrote, "My name is Ray Mercer. I found letters addressed to me from you. I never received them when they were sent. I was told a different story about 1987, and I am trying to understand what happened without causing you more pain. If I am wrong, you do not have to answer. If I am not wrong, I need you to know this: I did not refuse you. Raymond A. Mercer." I attached no documents. Evelyn was right. Proof could wait. A person should not be ambushed by a file. I hovered over send for so long the library computer warned me my session was ending. Then I clicked. Nothing happened. That was the worst part. No music swelled. No door opened. No universe corrected itself. Just a sent email in a public library and a printer jam at the next desk. Waiting became its own kind of punishment. For 3 days, I checked my email every hour. At work. At home. In my truck outside my mother's house. Once in the church parking lot before I went inside to replace ceiling tiles Sister Carol and insisted could wait. No reply. Denise noticed. Of course she did. "You keep looking at that phone like a teenager," she said Monday morning, after Mom's cardiology appointment. We were in the hospital parking lot. Mom sat in the passenger seat of Denise's car, tired from the appointment, eyes closed. Denise stood beside me near my truck. "The doctor changed her medication," she said. "I'll need you to pick it up tomorrow." "I'm working tomorrow." "After work, then." "I have physical therapy." She stared. It was such a small refusal. Not even refusal, really. Just information. But Denise heard the shift. "So Mom's prescriptions are inconvenient now?" "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to." I looked at her across the hood of my truck. For years, Denise had made every practical request sound like a moral test. If I passed, I stayed useful. If I hesitated, I became selfish. "I can pick it up Wednesday morning," I said. "She needs it tomorrow." "Then you'll have to get it." Her eyebrows lifted. "I have work." "So do I." "I'm her primary caregiver." "I know. And you're her son." "I know that too." The parking lot was full of people carrying flowers, discharge bags, walkers, bad news, good news. A man helped his wife into a minivan. A young mother buckled a sleeping child into a car seat. Ordinary tenderness everywhere, unadvertised. Denise lowered her voice. "You're punishing Mom because of me." "No. I'm letting you do one errand." "You sound different." "I am different." She looked at my phone in my hand. "She hasn't written back, has she?" I said nothing. Something like satisfaction passed through her eyes before she covered it with concern. "Maybe that's your answer." It hurt because it might have been true. Denise saw it land. She stepped closer. "Ray, some people don't want to be found." The same sentence from somewhere. I did not know then that Lila had written almost those exact words years earlier. I just knew Denise was using it like a door closing. My phone buzzed. We both looked down. An email notification. From Lila Grant. For a moment, neither of us moved. Denise whispered, "Don't." I opened it. The message was short. "I don't know what to believe yet. I have copies of 3 things. I'm sending them because if you really didn't know, you should see what I saw. Please don't call the school. Lila." Attached were 3 scans. The first was a letter dated August 14, 2005. Her 18th birthday. Dear Ray Mercer. My name is Lila Rose Grant. My mother was Maggie Grant. Before she died, she told me you were my father. She said she tried to reach you when I was born, but your family told her you didn't want anything to do with us. I don't know if that's true. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for anything, really. I just want to know if you knew I existed. The second scan was the envelope. My name. My address. Her return address. Stamped in black. Refused. The third was a phone bill record from 2007. 1 outgoing call circled in blue. Area code 330. My mother's house number. Under it, in handwriting, Lila had written. A woman answered. She said you knew I called. She said you told me not to call again. I read that line in the hospital parking lot with my sister standing 3 feet away. She must have seen my face. Her own went pale. What? She asked. I turned the phone toward her. She looked at the scan. Not long. Just enough. Then she looked away. That was confession enough for the parking lot. But not enough for 36 years. You told her I said not to call, I said. Mom stirred in the car. Denise's face closed. This is not the place. You told my daughter I rejected her. This is not the place. I stepped closer. She looked around quickly, checking who might hear. Of course she did. The place? I said. You picked the place 30 years ago. Hospital rooms. Kitchen tables. Post office counters. My work file. My mail. My phone. You made every place yours. Lower your voice. No. A woman getting into a Subaru glanced over. Denise saw her and softened her face immediately. Ray, you're upset. We can talk when you're calmer. There it was again. Not wrong. Not hurt. Not betrayed. Upset. Calmer. Manageable. I leaned in, not shouting now. What night did she call? I don't remember. She has the phone record. Then why ask me? Because I want to hear you lie with a date attached. Her eyes flashed. You have no idea what I carried. I know what you took. Mom knocked on the passenger window weakly. Denise turned, grateful for the interruption. I walked to my truck. She called after me, Ray, don't make decisions while you're emotional. I opened the door. For once, I had the answer ready. You made mine while I was grieving. I drove away before she could reply. That night, I found the hospital schedule from 2007. It should have been impossible. But I had a habit of keeping paper, not because I was sentimental, but because hospitals lose things in maintenance. Men get blamed when they do. In a plastic bin under my bed were old pay stubs, union notices, appliance manuals, tax forms, and work schedules from years I had forgotten living through. The phone bill scan showed Lila called on February 3, 2007, at 8:42 p.m. I found the schedule for that week. Night maintenance, boiler room emergency repair. Raymond Mercer, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. I was not at my mother's house. I was at the hospital, replacing a pressure valve in the basement because a cold snap had pushed the old system too hard. I remembered that night once I saw it. My hands had cracked from the cold. A resident had brought me coffee in a styrofoam cup. I had gone home at dawn and slept until noon. Lila had called the house while I was under the hospital keeping other people warm. Denise had told her I knew. Denise had told her I said not to call. I laid the schedule beside Lila's scan. 2 pieces of paper. 1 lie between them. Lonely people make stories out of paper. No. Paper was making a story out of her. I emailed Lila back at 1:17 a.m. Lila. I was at work when that phone call happened. I have the schedule. I'm attaching it because you deserve proof, not just my word. I don't know what my sister told you or why she thought she had the right. I am not going to ask you to forgive a stranger. I am not going to ask you to call me anything. But I need to say this plainly. I did not know you were alive. I did not refuse your letters. I did not tell you not to call. I am sorry you were made to believe that. Ray. I attached the schedule. Then I sat at the kitchen table until morning, not waiting for forgiveness. Waiting for the world to decide whether it would let the truth arrive before it was too late. Her reply came 2 days later. Thank you for sending the schedule. I need time. My son has a concert Friday. I'm not ready to meet before that. I will write again after. Lila. My son. I read those 2 words until the kitchen around me disappeared. I had a grandson. Not in a fantasy way. Not in the sudden soft focus way people imagine when they lose something and try to replace it with a sweeter picture. A real boy. With a concert Friday. A mother who was not ready. A life where I was not invited yet. I closed the laptop carefully. Then I went to the hospital and worked until my shoulder hurt so badly I had to sit in the boiler room with my head against the wall. Tom found me there. You okay? No. He sat on an overturned bucket across from me. For a while, neither of us spoke. The boiler clicked and hummed. Finally, Tom said, when my dad left, I used to imagine him coming back with a reason good enough to fix it. I looked at him. He never did, Tom said. But if he had, I think I still would have been mad that the reason didn't give me back the years. I nodded slowly. That's what I'm afraid of. That she'll be angry? That she'll be right to be. Tom looked at the pipes above us. Both can be true. It was the most useful thing anyone had said to me in days. Both can be true. I could be innocent of the lie and still responsible for the empty chair it left. I could have been robbed and still arrived too late. I could love someone I did not know and still not deserve immediate entry into her life. Truth was not a key. It was only the first door. Denise did not stop. People like my sister do not surrender control because one lie is exposed. They move to the next available version. By Friday, 3 different people had called to ask if I was all right. Sister Carol called first. Then Nadine from the post office, pretending to ask if my mailbox latch still worked. Then my cousin Rob, who had not spoken to me since a funeral in 2015. Denise says you're accusing the family of some pretty wild stuff, Rob said. What stuff? He cleared his throat. Secret kids. Stolen mail. That kind of thing. Did she mention the refused letters? Silence. Rob? She said those were misunderstandings. She would. She's asking people to come by Sunday. Talk it through. Make sure your mom doesn't get caught in the middle. There it was. A family dinner. Not for food. For containment. I almost refused. Then I thought of Lila's email. My son has a concert Friday. I'm not ready. For 36 years, Denise had benefited from me being quiet in rooms she controlled. Maybe quiet was not the same as absent. "I'll come," I said. Sunday afternoon, my mother's dining room table was set like Thanksgiving, though it was March and nobody had anything to be thankful for yet. Denise had invited Rob, Aunt Helen, Sister Carol and Pastor Mike from First Methodist. Not Tom. Not Nadine. Not Evelyn. Only people she believed could be steered by concern. My mother sat at the head of the table in a lavender sweater, looking frightened and heavily powdered. Denise had done her hair. That made me angrier than it should have. My mother always looked most helpless when Denise needed witnesses. The roast was dry. The green beans were canned. The rolls were the frozen kind Denise bought when she wanted credit for cooking but not the labor. Everyone avoided the shoebox on the sideboard because nobody knew yet that I had brought it. Denise began before dessert. "Ray has been under tremendous stress," she said, hands folded beside her plate. "The shoulder injury, the workers' comp situation, the possibility of retirement before he's ready. And now he's found some old papers that have brought up painful memories." I watched the room. Rob looked uncomfortable. Aunt Helen looked hungry for drama and ashamed of it. Pastor Mike nodded in the way pastors do when they hope calm will become contagious. Sister Carol looked at me and waited. Denise continued, "I want us to be careful. Memory is complicated. Grief is complicated. Ray lost a child a long time ago, and I think these papers have made him want a different ending." My fork lay untouched beside my plate. A different ending. That was what she called my daughter's existence. Denise turned to me, voice soft. "Ray, nobody is attacking you. We're just asking you not to hurt Mom with accusations none of us can prove." I stood. The chair legs scraped the floor. My mother flinched. I hated that. I hated that even then, Denise could make my movement look like harm. I walked to the sideboard and picked up the shoebox. Denise's face changed. "I'm not going to yell," I said. "I'm not going to ask anyone here to take sides. I'm just going to show you what I was told not to make into a story." I placed the hospital emergency contact form on the table first. Lila Mercer, daughter. Then the 2001 replacement form. Denise Mercer, sister. Then the post office forwarding printout. DM. Then the returned letters. Returned to sender. Refused. Then Lila's phone record. Then my hospital schedule. The table went completely still. Paper does not shout. That is its power. It simply lies there and makes people choose whether to keep pretending not to read. Rob picked up the phone record first. Aunt Helen reached for the refused envelope, then looked at Denise and withdrew her hand. Pastor Mike removed his glasses, cleaned them, and put them back on, though they were not dirty. Sister Carol read everything without touching her food. Denise stared at me with hatred so clean it almost looked like relief. "You brought documents to dinner," she said. "You brought witnesses." My mother began to cry. Pastor Mike said, "Denise, is there an explanation?" Denise turned to him slowly. "Yes. I was trying to protect my brother from a family that had already hurt him." "By refusing his mail?" Sister Carol asked. Denise's mouth tightened. "By stopping a young woman from dragging him into a mess 20 years after the fact." "She was his daughter," I said. "She was Maggie's daughter." The room changed at that. Not because it was the worst thing she had said. Because it was the truest version of what she believed. Denise looked at me. "You want to call yourself a father now because it costs you nothing. Where were you for the diapers? The fevers? The school forms? The broken arms? The college applications? You weren't there. I didn't know. Because knowing wouldn't have made you capable." I felt the blow. I will not pretend I did not. Some accusations hurt because they are lies. Some hurt because they stand too close to the fear you already have. Rob spoke quietly. Denise, did you tell the girl Ray didn't want contact? She looked at him like he had betrayed her by asking the obvious. I don't remember every phone call from 20 years ago. She has the phone bill, I said. A phone bill doesn't prove a conversation. No, I said. But my work schedule proves I didn't have it. Aunt Helen covered her mouth. My mother whispered, Denise. Denise turned on her. Don't. My mother shrank back. And there, in that tiny movement, I saw the whole family again. Denise had not controlled us by being the loudest. She had controlled us by making everyone afraid of what would happen if she stopped holding the pieces together. I gathered the papers. Denise said, so what now? You going to sue me? Humiliate your own sister? Put Mom through depositions? Is that the man you want to become? No. She blinked. The room waited. I'm not suing you, I said. I'm not calling the police today. I'm not dragging Mom through anything. Relief moved across her face too soon. I continued. I'm changing my emergency contact. She stared. I'm closing the household maintenance account. I'll pay Mom's pharmacy bill through the end of the month. After that, you and Rob and whoever else thinks family decisions should be made quietly can make them quietly without my paycheck. Ray, Rob said. I looked at him. You can help too. He looked away. Denise stood so fast her napkin fell to the floor. You would abandon your mother? There it was, the oldest weapon. I looked at my mother. She was crying, but she was looking at me now. Really looking. Mom, I said, did you know Lila was alive? Her lips trembled. Denise said, don't answer that. My mother closed her eyes. Then she nodded. Aunt Helen gasped softly. I felt something inside me break, but not loudly. More like ice giving way under a quiet pond. How long? I asked. My mother whispered, I didn't know all the years. How long? She opened her eyes. Since the first letter. The first letter. 18. Lila had been 18. I had been 40. Not too young. Not too broke. Not incapable of hearing truth. 40. I sat down because my knees had gone weak. Denise said, Mom, you don't understand what he's asking. My mother turned toward her daughter with an expression I had not seen since childhood. I understood enough to be ashamed. No one spoke. Denise's face folded, not into remorse, but into injury. You're welcome, she said bitterly. All of you. You're welcome for the years I held this family together. Sister Carolyn's voice was quiet. Held it together, or held it still? Denise grabbed her purse. At the doorway, she turned back to me. She won't call you Dad, she said. Don't expect that. I looked down at the papers. I'm not going there for a title. Then what are you going for? I thought of Lila's staff photo. The boy with the concert. The letters in the shoebox. The word refused stamped over my name like a verdict. The first honest conversation, I said. Denise left. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the porch light I had fixed. For once, it stayed on. Lila agreed to meet 2 weeks later. Not at her house. Not at mine. Not with family around. A bus station in Kalamazoo. Neutral ground. Her choice. She wrote. I'll wear a blue coat. My son will be with me because I don't have childcare that morning. Please understand he doesn't know who you are yet. I told him we are meeting an old friend of his grandmother's. I read that sentence several times. An old friend of his grandmother's. It was not cruel. It was careful. I respected careful. Careful meant she was protecting someone. I emailed back. I understand. No pressure. I'll follow your lead. Then I did 3 things. First, I went to HR. Tom was at his desk eating soup from a microwave container. I placed a new emergency contact form in front of him. He read it. Lila Grant, daughter. Phone number, blank. Relationship, daughter. He looked up. No number? Not yet. You can list her without one. I know. He nodded. I signed at the bottom. This time, I dragged the R in Raymond so long it nearly touched the line above it. Tom smiled a little when he saw it. Second, I went to the bank and closed the automatic transfer that paid for repairs and utilities at my mother's house. The banker, a young man with a tie too narrow for his shirt, asked if I was sure. I said yes. He asked if this was because of fraud. I thought about that. No, I said. It's because of clarity. He did not know what to do with that, so he clicked the box that said customer request. Third, I took the spare key to my mother's house off my ring. It had been there since I was 16. The brass was worn smooth from my thumb. I had used it to enter that house after school, after night shifts, after ice storms, after Denise called about strange furnace noises, after Mom fell, after pipes froze, after every small emergency that had trained me to believe my life was something to be interrupted. I placed the key in a padded envelope. Inside, I put a note to Denise. You kept the house. I'm going to meet my daughter. Ray. I did not write more. More would have been defense. I was finished defending. The bus left Millbrook before dawn. I could have driven, but my shoulder ached after an hour behind the wheel, and something about taking a bus felt right. Slow. Public. Ordinary. A man going somewhere with a paper ticket and no guarantee. I wore my old brown jacket and carried one small duffel. In the inside pocket were 4 things. The 1999 emergency contact form. The first refused letter. The hospital schedule from the night Lila called. And a birthday card I had written when she was 16. I did not know whether I would show her any of them. I just knew I did not want to arrive empty-handed. The bus smelled like coffee, wet coats, and disinfectant. A college kid slept against the window across the aisle. An old man in a ball cap read a paperback with one finger moving under each line. A woman 2 rows ahead watched a cooking video without headphones until the driver told her to turn it down. Outside, Ohio flattened into morning fields. I thought I would spend the ride rehearsing. Instead, I remembered small things. Maggie laughing in my truck because the passenger window would not roll up. My mother standing on the porch the day Denise told me the baby died. The first time someone at the hospital called me dependable. Denise saying, "Don't make this harder on everybody." Lila writing, "I don't know what to believe yet." Both can be true, Tom had said. By the time the bus crossed into Michigan, I understood something I had been avoiding. I wanted Lila to absolve me. Not completely. I was not that foolish. But some part of me wanted her to look at the papers, understand the lie, and remove the weight from my chest. That was not her job. She had already carried a father's rejection that was not real. I would not ask her to carry my innocence too. The Kalamazoo station was smaller than I expected. Plastic chairs. Vending machines. A mural of a train that no longer stopped there. A coffee kiosk with one tired employee and a line of people pretending they were not watching everyone else. I stepped off the bus with my duffel in my left hand because my right shoulder had stiffened. For a moment, I saw no blue coat. Then I did. She stood near the far wall under a departure screen. Dark blue coat. Dark hair pulled back. one hand resting on the shoulder of a boy about 8 years old. The boy held a folded piece of paper with my name written in black marker. Ray. Not Dad. Not Grandpa. Ray. It was more mercy than I deserved and less than my heart wanted. I walked toward them slowly. Lila did not move. She looked like the photo and nothing like it. Photographs make people flat. Real life gives them weather. Her eyes were Maggie's at first glance. Then she tilted her head, and I saw myself. Not enough to claim. Enough to ache. The boy looked up at her. Is that him? She nodded. I stopped several feet away. Lila, I said. Her mouth trembled once before she steadied it. Ray. The name in her voice did something strange to me. For 36 years, Ray had been what coworkers called when a pipe burst, what Denise called when she needed something, what my mother called when memory allowed. In Lila's mouth, it sounded like a question that had finally found the person it was asking. I looked at the boy. Hi, I said. He lifted the paper a little. My mom said to hold this so you'd know us. You did a good job. He studied me. Are you really a maintenance guy? I smiled despite everything. Yes. Can you fix vending machines? Depends what's wrong with them. He pointed across the station. That one ate my dollar. Lila closed her eyes briefly, embarrassed. Owen. It did. I looked at her. May I? She seemed surprised, then nodded. I walked to the vending machine with Owen. He showed me the slot. The dollar was jammed halfway inside, folded at one corner. I took out my pocket knife, then paused and looked back at Lila. Is this okay? Something passed over her face. Maybe she noticed that I asked. Yes, she said. I worked the dollar loose without damaging the machine. Owen looked impressed. You're good. I've had practice. He ran back to his mother with the rescued dollar. Lila watched me return. For a few seconds, none of us spoke. Then Owen said, "Can I get chips now?" Lila gave him the dollar. Stay where I can see you. He went to the machine. Now it was just us, though not really. The station moved around us. Buses arriving. Wheels rolling. Announcements crackling overhead. Lila folded her hands together. I don't know how to do this, she said. Neither do I. That seemed to help more than any rehearsed apology would have. She looked at my jacket pocket. Did you bring papers? Yes. Are you planning to show me? Only if you ask. Her eyes filled, but she did not cry. I spent a long time thinking if I ever met you, I'd have a speech. I probably deserve it. Maybe. She looked toward Owen. But I'm tired of speeches I give to people who aren't there. I nodded. She took a breath. My mother told me about you before she died. Not everything. Enough to make me curious. She said you were young and scared, but not cruel. Then when I wrote and the letters came back, I thought maybe she had made you better in her memory. I swallowed. When I called, Lila said, your sister sounded so calm. That was the part that convinced me. Not what she said. How calm she was. Like she had already had the conversation with you and was just cleaning up after it. I looked down. I was at work. I know. I saw the schedule. I'm sorry. I believe you. The words hit harder than forgiveness would have. I believe you. Not I forgive you. Not it's okay. Just the first plank across a broken bridge. She reached into her purse and took out something small wrapped in tissue. I brought this because I didn't know what else to bring. She handed it to me. Inside was a hospital bracelet. Tiny. Faded. Plastic gone yellow at the edges. Grant, baby girl. August 14, 1987. My mom kept it, Lila said. Then I kept it. I used to be angry that there was no father's name on it. I held the bracelet with both hands. It weighed nothing. It held 36 years. I don't have anything good enough to trade for this, I said. You don't have to trade. I reached slowly into my jacket and took out the birthday card. For your 16th, I said. I found it in a box. I don't remember writing all of it. But it's mine. She did not take it immediately. I held it out. She looked at the envelope. For Lila, sweet 16. Her face changed in a way I could not name. Then she took it. She did not open it. She pressed it against her coat, just once, like testing whether it was real. Owen came back with chips. Mom, the machine worked. Lila wiped under one eye quickly. Good. He looked at me. Are you crying? Owen, Lila said. It's okay, I said. A little. Grown-ups cry weird, he said, then opened his chips. Lila laughed. It was small, startled, and for 1 second I heard Maggie in it. I did not say that. Some gifts are not for the first meeting. We sat in the station for 47 minutes. I know because I kept looking at the clock, not wanting to steal more time than she had offered. We talked about practical things first. Her work. Owen's school. The drive. My job at the hospital. My shoulder. The weather, because weather is what people use when blood feels too large. Then she asked about Maggie. I told her what I remembered carefully. Not as proof. Not as a claim. Just pieces. How Maggie sang along to the radio even when she did not know the words. How she hated onions but liked onion rings. How she once wrote directions to a lake on a napkin and got us lost for 3 hours. Lila smiled at that. She got us lost all the time, she said. She called it scenic routing. There it was. A shared memory with no shared years. I wanted to grab it. I let it pass gently. When the next bus announcement crackled overhead, Owen leaned against Lila's side and asked if they could go soon. She touched his hair. In a minute. I stood because leaving should be my burden, not hers. I'm staying at a motel near the station tonight, I said. Not because I expect anything. Just because the bus schedule back is bad. She nodded. Okay. If you decide you want coffee tomorrow, I'll answer. If you decide you don't, I'll understand. She looked at me for a long time. Do you always talk like you're trying not to scare a bird? I almost smiled. Only when the bird has every reason to fly. Her mouth tightened, but not with anger. She reached into her purse again and handed me a folded piece of paper. Her phone number. I'm not ready for father, she said. I know. I'm not ready for dad. I know. I don't know what I'm ready for. I took the paper. Would it be okay, I asked, if I started with hello? She looked down. Then she nodded. Hello, Ray, she said. My throat closed. Hello, Lila. Owen waved with 2 fingers. Bye, vending machine guy. I laughed. Bye, Owen. They walked toward the parking lot, not quickly, not slowly. At the door, Lila turned back once. Not a movie turn. Not dramatic. Just a woman making sure the man she had met was still there. I was. After they left, I sat on a plastic chair under the departure board. I took out the emergency contact form from 1999. Lila Mercer, daughter. For weeks, that line had felt like a wound. Now it felt like the first honest mistake my life had ever made. She had never been Mercer on paper. Not really. She had been Grant. She had been Maggie's. She had been her own. But someone, somewhere, sometime, had written daughter beside her name. Maybe it was Maggie. Maybe it was me in a grief I had buried. Maybe it was Denise forging one more thing before replacing it. I did not know. For once, I did not need the paper to answer everything. I folded it along the old crease and placed it back in my jacket. Then I took out the refused envelope. For years, that word had been the story Lila carried. Refused. I ran my thumb over the black stamp until the edge of the paper softened. At the motel that night, my phone rang at 9:12. Denise. I watched her name on the screen until the ringing stopped. Then a voicemail appeared. I did not play it. A minute later, a text came through. Mom is asking for you. I looked at it for a long time. Then I typed. Tell her I arrived safely. I did not apologize. I did not explain. I did not ask what was wrong with the furnace, the porch light, the pharmacy, the bank, the house, the family, the story. For the first time in my adult life, I let the old house need someone else. The next morning, I met Lila for coffee. Owen was at school. She came alone, wearing the same blue coat. We sat by the window in a diner where the waitress called everyone honey and the coffee tasted burned in a familiar way. Lila had opened the birthday card. She placed it between us on the table. The cartoon on the front was faded. The ink inside had browned slightly. She tapped one line. If you are real, I am sorry. I hated you for a long time, she said. I know. No, you don't. I nodded once. You're right. I don't. She seemed to appreciate that. I hated you in normal ways first. Father's Day things at school. Forms with blank spaces. Other girls getting picked up by dads in work boots. Then after my mom died and I found out she had tried to contact you, I hated you in a more organized way. Organized hate. I understood that more than she knew. I made a folder, she said. Copies of letters. Dates. Calls. Returned envelopes. I told myself if I ever saw you, I'd put it all in front of you and make you admit you knew. I would have believed you. That makes it worse. I looked at her. If you had been cruel, I could keep the story clean, she said. You were the father who didn't want me. I survived it. I built around it. Now there are all these other people in the room, even when they're not here. I'm sorry. I know you are. She looked out the window. A school bus passed, yellow and loud. I don't know where to put the anger, she said. I had no wise answer. So I gave her the only honest one. You don't have to put it somewhere convenient for me. She turned back. I can be angry at you? Yes. Even if you didn't know? Yes. Is that fair? No. She almost smiled. Good, she said. I'm tired of fair. We drank coffee. She told me Owen played trumpet badly but enthusiastically. She told me she taught music because Maggie used to sing when bills were overdue. She told me Maggie died of ovarian cancer when Lila was 17, and that before she died, she had said, if you ever find Ray, ask him if he still tilts his head when he listens. I did not know I did that. Lila said I did. We did not fix 36 years over coffee. But when we left, she let me walk her to her car. Not too close. Not too far. At the driver's door, she said, I'm going to tell Owen the truth slowly. Okay. He doesn't need more adults appearing and disappearing. I won't disappear. Her expression sharpened. I corrected myself. I won't choose to disappear. But I know you don't have reason to trust that yet. She nodded. That's better. Before she got in the car, she looked at me and said, I might call you next week. I'd like that. Might. I heard you. She got into the car. Then she rolled down the window. Ray? Yes. Did you really fix the vending machine with a pocket knife? The dollar slot. Not the machine. Owen has already turned it into a legend. I smiled. She drove away. This time, when she turned the corner, I did not feel abandoned. I felt left with something to earn. When I returned to Millbrook, Denise had changed the lock on my mother's back door. I found out because I went by to drop off Mom's heart medication. I had picked it up Wednesday, as promised. Old habits do not die because one bus ride happens. The front door was unlocked. The back door, the one I used for 40 years, had a new deadbolt. Denise was in the kitchen, writing checks. Mom sat by the window with a blanket on her lap. She smiled when she saw me, then looked afraid when she saw Denise see me. You changed the lock, I said. Denise did not look up. You returned your key. I returned the spare. You made your point. I placed the pharmacy bag on the counter. Medication. Thank you. The politeness was worse than anger. Mom reached out. Raymond. I went to her. She took my hand with both of hers. Her skin felt thin and cool. Did you see her? She whispered. Yes. Denise's pen stopped moving. Mom's eyes filled. Is she pretty? I thought of Lila in the blue coat, tired and guarded and real. She looks like herself, I said. Mom nodded, as if that was the right answer. I'm sorry, she whispered. I did not tell her it was okay. It was not okay. But I squeezed her hand. I know. Denise stood. Mom needs rest. She asked. She asks for your father some mornings too. That doesn't mean we dig him up. I looked at her. Once, that would have started a fight. Now it only confirmed a distance. I'm not here to argue, I said. Good. I'm here to tell you I won't be doing Thursday repairs anymore. Her face tightened. The gutters are pulling loose. Call Rob. Rob doesn't know gutters. He can learn. He has kids. So do I. The room went silent. Denise looked like I had slapped her. Mom began crying quietly. I did not look away from my sister. I have a daughter, I said. And a grandson who thinks I fix vending machines. I'm going to make room for that. Denise's mouth trembled. For a second, I thought she might finally say it. Not the whole apology. I did not expect miracles. But something. I was wrong. You'll be back, she said. When the novelty wears off. I nodded slowly. That's what you never understood, I said. You thought love was what kept me available. It was guilt. I kissed my mother's forehead. Denise said nothing. At the door, Mom called my name. I turned. She lifted one shaking hand. Tell Lila, she said, then stopped. Denise watched her sharply. Mom swallowed. Tell her I like the name. That was not enough. It was something. I nodded. Outside, the porch light flickered once, then steadied. I did not fix anything. Months do not heal what years broke. They do show what is alive. Lila called the next week. 8 minutes. Mostly about Owen's trumpet concert and a leak under her kitchen sink. She insisted she was not asking me to drive 3 hours to fix. I told her how to tighten the trap over video. Owen held the phone too close to the pipe and narrated the entire operation like a sports announcer. The week after that, she sent a photo of the repaired sink with the message. Not bad for instructions from a vending machine guy. I saved it. In April, I drove to Michigan and attended Owen's spring concert. I sat in the back row because that was where Lila pointed when I arrived. Not family section. Not front row. Not hidden either. Back row. A beginning. Owen played trumpet with great confidence and only occasional loyalty to the melody. When the children stood to bow, he scanned the room until he found me. Then he lifted 2 fingers in the same small wave from the bus station. I waved back. Lila saw. She did not smile exactly. But she did not look away. In May, she called me during a thunderstorm because Owen wanted to know whether lightning could travel through plumbing. I answered carefully. Then she stayed on the line after he went to bed. We talked for 40 minutes. Not about Denise. Not about Maggie. About ordinary things. Her school budget. My physical therapy. The diner in Millbrook changing ownership. The way hospital coffee tastes bad in every state. At the end, she said, "Good night, Ray." I said, "Good night, Lila." Then I sat in my apartment listening to rain hit the alley window. No one needed me to fix anything. Nothing was broken in a way I could reach. Still, for the first time in years, my life felt less empty after a phone call ended. Denise left voicemails. I deleted most without listening. One I played by accident. Her voice sounded smaller. Mom fell trying to reach the pantry. "She's fine. Bruised hip. I know you said call Rob, but he's not answering. I just thought you should know." I called Rob. Then I called Sister Carol Ann. Then I called Denise and said, "I'll meet you at urgent care, but I'm not coming to the house afterward." She said, "You're enjoying this." "No." "You want me to beg?" "No." "What do you want, Ray?" I thought about it. "I want you to stop confusing access with forgiveness." She hung up. At urgent care, Mom held my hand and asked 3 times where Denise was, though Denise sat beside her filling out forms. On the intake sheet, the nurse asked for emergency contact. Denise began to answer. Mom interrupted. "Raymond," she said. Denise went still. The nurse looked up. Mom pointed at me. "Raymond first." I did not feel triumph. I felt tired. Denise looked at the floor. Afterward, in the parking lot, she said, "Are you happy now?" I looked at her across the roof of Mom's car. "No." She seemed confused. "You think every correction is revenge," I said. "It isn't. Sometimes it's just putting a name where it should have been." She got in the car without answering. That summer, Lila came to Millbrook. Not for Denise. Not for my mother. For herself, she said. She wanted to see where Maggie had been young, where I worked, where the story had started before it went wrong. I did not take her to my mother's house first. I took her to the hospital. We walked the old maternity corridor, now beige and quiet. Evelyn met us there with a folder of volunteer schedules she did not need and a face that tried very hard not to soften. Lila shook her hand. Evelyn looked at her for a long moment. "You hated cold blankets," she said. Lila laughed, startled. "I still do." Evelyn nodded like a nurse whose chart had been confirmed. She did not say too much. That was her gift. She showed Lila where the old nursery window had been before renovation. A wall now. A vending alcove. 2 machines humming under fluorescent light. Lila stood there, looking at nothing and everything. "This is where she saw me?" she asked. "Yes," Evelyn said. "And where the letter was left?" "At the desk down that way." Lila looked at me. Not accusingly. Just measuring the distance. From nursery to desk. From desk to Denise. From Denise to 36 years. "Small hallway," she said. Yes. So much damage for such a small hallway. No one answered. Later, I took her to the cemetery where Maggie was not buried because Maggie had died in Michigan, but where her grandparents were. Lila placed a small stone on the grave anyway because she said Maggie would have liked the view. Then, finally, she asked to see the house. Denise was not there. I had made sure of that. Mom sat in the living room with a blanket over her legs, hair brushed, lipstick uneven. She looked terrified when Lila entered. Lila stopped just inside the doorway. For a moment, I saw the shape of all the impossible things people expect from blood. Recognition. Forgiveness. Instinct. Mercy. None of that happened. There were two women in a room with a stolen history between them. My mother began to cry. Lila did not go to her. She stood beside me and said, "Hello, Mrs. Mercer." Mrs. Mercer. Not Grandma. Not Marlene. Mrs. Mercer. My mother nodded as if she had been handed a sentence she deserved. "Hello, Lila." Denise arrived 10 minutes later despite being told not to. She came through the back door with grocery bags and stopped when she saw Lila. The bags sagged in her hands. One can fell out and rolled across the floor. Nobody picked it up. Lila turned. So did Denise. For 36 years, my sister had been a voice on a phone, a returned envelope, initials on a forwarding order, a hand between two lives. Now she was simply a woman in a kitchen holding plastic bags. Denise said, "You look like Maggie." Lila said, "I know." Denise's mouth opened, then closed. She looked at me. "You should have told me she was coming." "No," I said. Lila reached into her purse and took out a copy of the refused envelope. She placed it on the kitchen table. "I'm not here to fight," she said. Denise looked relieved too quickly. "I'm here because I spent years imagining you as someone powerful," Lila continued. "Someone who could decide whether I had a father. Seeing you now helps." Denise stiffened. "Meaning what?" "Meaning you're smaller than the damage." My mother made a soft sound. Denise's face reddened. "I did what I thought was best." Lila nodded. "I know. That's the part one wanted to see in person." "What?" "That you still think that sentence should protect you." Denise looked at me again, searching for the old family arrangement where I would step in, soften the edges, translate pain into something she could survive. I did not move. Lila picked up the envelope and put it back in her purse. "I don't want anything from you," she said. "Not an apology you don't mean. Not an explanation that makes you feel practical. Not a place in this family." Denise swallowed. "I came because my son asked where his grandfather grew up," Lila said. I wanted to know what to tell him. The word grandfather moved through the room like a struck match. Denise heard it. So did my mother. So did I. Lila looked at me then, and there was warning in her eyes. "Careful. Not too much." I understood. Grandfather was a description for Owen, not a promotion. Still, something inside me stood very still around it. Lila turned to leave. At the doorway, Denise said, "You think he would have been some wonderful father?" Lila stopped. I closed my eyes. There it was. The last knife Denise had. Lila turned back slowly. "No," she said. "I think he would have been young and scared and probably made mistakes." Denise blinked. "I think my mother would have made mistakes too," Lila said. "I think money would have been hard. I think everybody would have had opinions. I think it might have been messy." Her voice trembled once. "But it would have been our mess." The kitchen went quiet. Lila opened the door. I followed her outside. On the porch, she took a deep breath and looked at the road, the fields, the sagging fence, the life that had almost been hers and never was. I'm okay, she said before I asked. You don't have to be. I know. She looked at me. Thank you for not defending her. I'm done doing that. She nodded. Then she surprised me by touching my arm. Not a hug. Not yet. Just 2 fingers on my sleeve. It lasted less than a second. I felt it all day. By fall, my life had rearranged itself in ways that would have looked small to anyone else. Wednesday nights became phone nights with Lila, unless she was busy or did not feel like talking. I learned not to ask twice. Owen sent me photos of broken things. A loose bicycle chain. A cracked recorder from music class. A toy robot missing a wheel. Sometimes I could help. Sometimes I told him to ask his mother before using glue. He began calling me Mr. Ray. Then, one day, just Ray. I did not correct him. At the hospital, Tom processed my partial retirement. My shoulder would not take another decade of night calls, so I moved into part-time facilities training, teaching younger maintenance workers where the building hit its worst decisions. You can't trust new paint, I told them. It usually means someone covered a leak. That made them laugh. I was not joking. Evelyn volunteered twice a week and pretended not to check on me. Nadine at the post office gave me a new mailbox latch for free and said, for future correspondence. Sister Carol and asked if I would fix the church basement sink again, then added, only if you want to. I did. Wanting to help felt different from being summoned. My mother declined through the winter. Some days she knew me. Some days she called me Arthur, my father's name. Some days she asked if the baby was sleeping, and Denise would leave the room because guilt had finally found places even she could not organize. I visited Mom on Sundays. Not Thursdays. Not every emergency. Sundays. I brought soup sometimes. Fixed small things if I chose. Sat with her while she watched game shows. Once, she held my hand and said, I was afraid you'd leave. I said, I did. She cried. I did not take it back. Denise and I became polite in the way people are polite after a house fire, standing near the ashes because property lines still matter. She never fully apologized. The closest she came was one December afternoon, after Mom fell asleep in her chair and snow began tapping the windows. Denise stood at the sink washing a mug that was already clean. I thought if you found out, you'd go, she said. I sat at the table. I know. She turned, surprised that I had not argued. I thought Mom would die if you left. She didn't. No. She was sad. Yes. She survived. Denise dried the mug slowly. What if I didn't? I looked at her then. For the first time, I heard the child inside my sister. Not the excuse. The child. What if I didn't survive you leaving? That was the fear she had dressed up as duty, practicality, protection, family. I felt compassion rise. Not forgiveness. Not absolution. Compassion. You should have told me that, I said. She laughed once, bitterly. Would it have changed anything? Maybe not. Then what good would it do? It would have been honest. She looked down. I don't know how to be in this family if I'm not the one holding it together, she said. I believed her. That was the sad part. You were never holding it together, I said. You were holding it in place. She wiped the counter with the dish towel. Is there a difference? Yes. She waited. One lets people breathe. The snow kept falling. Denise did not answer. That was the last real conversation we had before Mom died in February. The funeral was small. Lila did not come, and I did not ask her to. She sent flowers with a card that read, For Marlene Mercer. No title. No claim. Just the name. Denise noticed. She said nothing. After the service, people gathered in the church basement where I had fixed the sink 3 times and eaten more ham sandwiches after funerals than I could count. Pastor Mike spoke gently. Aunt Helen cried too loudly. Rob talked about weather because grief made him useless. Denise stood near the coffee urn accepting condolences like a woman receiving bills. I watched her from across the room and understood that she had lost something real too. A mother. A role. A reason. Loss does not make people innocent. But it does make them human again in ways anger forgets. When the house was settled, Denise wanted to keep it. I did not fight her. There was no secret inheritance. No courtroom scene. No lawyer reading a will that made everyone gasp. Mom had little besides the house and debts attached to it. Denise had lived there, managed it, controlled it, hidden inside it. Let her keep the walls she chose over truth. I took only one thing. The old porch light fixture. Denise thought that was strange. Maybe it was. I replaced it years ago after the wiring finally gave out, but I had kept the original in the garage because my father installed it. Rusted metal. Clouded glass. One screw missing. I took it back to my apartment, cleaned it, rewired it, and mounted it beside my kitchen window, not connected to anything. A light no longer responsible for lighting the wrong door. In March, 1 year after I saw Lila's name on the hospital form, I drove to Michigan for Owen's birthday. He turned 9. Lila invited me 2 weeks before and said, "It's just pizza and cake. Don't make it weird." "I specialize in normal," I said. She laughed. "You absolutely do not." The party was loud, chaotic, and full of children who believed volume solved most problems. Owen introduced me to his friends as Ray, who can fix stuff. One kid asked if I was his grandpa. Owen looked at me, then at Lila. Lila kept arranging paper plates. I held still. Owen shrugged. Kind of. Kind of. I took it like a medal and a warning. After cake, Lila found me on the back porch with a cup of coffee, watching the children hit a piñata shaped like a dinosaur. She stood beside me. "You okay?" she asked. "Yes." "You got quiet. Lots to listen to." She smiled faintly. For a while, we watched Owen miss the dinosaur with heroic effort. Then Lila said, "I put you on his school pickup list." I turned. She kept her eyes on the yard. "Emergency only," she said quickly. "And I can remove it if..." "No." My voice came out too fast. She looked at me. I slowed down. "No. I mean, thank you." She handed me a folded copy from her purse. I opened it carefully. School authorized pickup form. Student, Owen Grant. Authorized adult, Raymond Mercer. Relationship, family friend. Family friend. Not grandfather. Not yet. Maybe never. But my name was there. Not hidden. Not refused. Not crossed out. Not replaced. Written by her hand, on purpose. I folded the paper and put it in my jacket pocket beside the old hospital form. Lila watched me. "You keep everything, don't you?" "Not everything." "What do you throw away?" I thought of Denise's voicemails. Old guilt. The belief that love required availability. "Instructions that were never mine," I said. She nodded like she understood more than I had said. The dinosaur finally split open. Candy scattered across the grass. Children screamed like treasure hunters. Owen ran up to us with 3 pieces of candy in his hand. He gave one to Lila. One to me. One he kept. "Ray," he said, "can you come to my concert next month?" I looked at Lila. She looked at Owen. Then at me. If your mom says it's okay, I said. Owen rolled his eyes. She already did. Lila smiled into her coffee. I did. I put the candy in my pocket because I did not want to eat it yet. Some things you keep a little while before letting them become ordinary. That evening, after the party, I sat in my truck outside Lila's house before driving back to Millbrook. The sky was turning purple over the neighborhood. Through the front window, I could see Owen showing Lila something on the floor, probably a toy, maybe broken already. My phone buzzed. A text from Lila. Thank you for coming today. Then another. Owen asked if you can teach him how to use tools this summer. I told him maybe. Then, after a pause. I'm glad you found the form. I read that last line several times. The hospital form had felt like a wound when I first saw it. Then proof. Then a map. Now, maybe, it was becoming something else. Not destiny. I do not believe in destiny. Too many people use that word to make pain sound designed. It was a loose thread. One line of ink that had survived being buried, copied, replaced, and almost forgotten. I took the original copy from my jacket. Emergency contact, Lila Mercer, daughter. The name was not fully right. The relationship was too simple for what we were. But the form had done what no one in my family had managed to do. It told the truth badly enough that I went looking for the better version. I folded it and placed it back in my pocket. Then I started the truck. On the drive home, Denise called. I let it ring twice, then answered. For a long moment, she said nothing. Ray, she said finally. Yes. I found another box. My hands tightened on the wheel. What box? In Mom's closet. Letters. Not from Lila. From Maggie. The road hummed under the tires. Did you open them? No. I did not believe her immediately. Maybe I never would automatically again. Do you want them? She asked. Yes. Another pause. I'll leave them on the porch. No, I said. Mail them. She was silent. Then she said, to your apartment? I looked at the dark road ahead. No, I said. Send them to Lila. Denise inhaled sharply. They're hers too, I said. For once, my sister did not argue. A week later, Lila received the box. She called me after she opened it. We did not read the letters together that night. They were Maggie's words, and Lila needed to meet them first without me listening. But she told me one thing. At the bottom of the box was the original envelope Evelyn remembered. My name in blue ink. A small flower drawn over the I in a middle name that did not have one. Inside was a letter from Maggie written the day after Lila was born. Lila read me only the last line. Ray, if they make this hard, please don't believe hard means impossible. Neither of us spoke for a while. Then Lila said, she knew. Yes. She knew people would get in the way. Yes. She still wrote. I closed my eyes. Yes. Lila breathed unsteadily into the phone. I wish she had lived long enough to know. So do I. Another silence. Then she said, Ray? Yes. I'm angry again. I know. Not at you exactly. That's okay. I don't know who I'm talking to when I'm angry. You can talk to me. That isn't fair. No. She gave a small laugh through tears. You always say that. Because it keeps being true. We stayed on the phone until her breathing steadied. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table under the disconnected porch light and thought about all the papers people had tried to use as walls. Forms. Letters. Schedules. Forwarding orders. Refused envelopes. Pick-up lists. Paper had failed us for years. Then paper saved what it could. The following summer, Owen and I built a birdhouse. It was crooked. He painted it blue because Lila said the porch needed color. He got paint on his elbows, one shoe, and the dog next door. He used too many nails. I let him, mostly. Lila brought lemonade and watched from the steps. At one point, Owen held up the birdhouse and asked, "Do you think birds care if it's not perfect?" "No," I said. "They care if it holds." He considered that. Then he added 3 more nails. Lila laughed. The sound moved through the yard, easy and present. Not healed. Present. When the birdhouse was done, Owen asked me to sign the bottom with him. He wrote Owen in large uneven letters. I wrote Ray beside it. Then he grabbed the pencil back and added something between our names. A plus sign. Owen plus Ray. Not a family tree. Not a title. A connection in pencil on the bottom of a crooked blue birdhouse. That was enough for that day. That is the part people want to rush past when they hear stories like mine. They want the moment of exposure. The slammed door. The guilty face. The dramatic reunion. The single sentence that fixes the past. But most of life happens afterward. In cautious calls. In forms updated one at a time. In a child deciding whether to wave. In a woman letting you sit in the back row, then later the middle row, then one day saving you a seat without saying anything about it. In learning not to make every small kindness pay for a large loss. In understanding that stolen years do not come back because the truth has arrived. They only stop being stolen from that point forward. I still work part-time at the hospital. Sometimes I pass HR and see Tom through the glass, explaining benefits to someone with the same careful face he wore with me. Sometimes I walk the old maternity hallway and touch the wall where the nursery window used to be. Not every time. Just when the day feels like it needs a witness. Denise and I speak rarely. She mailed every letter she found. Whether she kept some, I do not know. I have learned there are truths I may never recover, and I am no longer willing to spend the rest of my life digging in my sister's locked rooms. She still lives in the house on County Road 14. Rob fixes the gutters now. Badly, from what Sister Carolyn says. I do not drive over to correct them. My emergency contact at the hospital has been updated again. Tom called me into his office last month with a little smile. New form came through, he said. Lila had agreed to add her phone number. The page now reads: Emergency contact, Lila Grant. Relationship, daughter. Phone, filled in. Under alternate contact, in smaller print. Owen Grant, call only if he is older than 18, which he is not, but he insisted. Tom said that line was not standard. I told him standard had not done much for me. He filed it anyway. I keep copies of the old documents in a blue folder at home. Not on display. Not hidden. In the second drawer of my kitchen cabinet, beside the instruction manuals and batteries. The refused envelope is there. The 1999 emergency contact form. The hospital schedule. Maggie's letter, copied with Lila's permission. The school pickup form listing me as family friend. And on top, a photograph Owen gave me last Christmas. It shows the crooked blue birdhouse hanging from Lila's porch. On the back, in Owen's handwriting, it says, "It holds." That is where I leave the story now. Not with Denise punished enough. Not with my mother forgiven neatly. Not with Lila calling me dad, because that is not a word anyone owes me. I leave it with a birdhouse that holds. With a phone number where a blank used to be. With a woman in a blue coat who once met me at a station holding all the years between us, and still said hello. With a boy who thinks I can fix vending machines. With a porch light from the wrong house hanging unplugged beside my kitchen window, no longer responsible for calling me back. And with my name written, finally, where someone chose to put it.